So I'm super excited to be here for the first ever, not first ever, I'll be honest, we had one Band Room podcast live before, but this is the first of this series, which is very exciting. So this is a new little series that I'm doing so I can get you some more people to hear from, people that I've worked with, people that are my friends and colleagues, and ultimately people I just greatly admire and look up to and respect. And I'm very excited for this first ever Band Room Live, we'll say, to have Christian Overton here to speak with us, and just so we can learn a little bit more him, and especially about this super cool initiative that he has that can help a lot of our listeners who are music teachers. So welcome.
Thank you.
The live podcast.
Thank you. Well, it's great being here. I've heard a lot about the podcast and a lot about Dylan Maddox.
Oh, wow. You've never listened to this. Don't fool us.
I know you. I've heard it. Yeah. We know you for this.
Yeah. So great. And the other thing I wanted to mention is that at any point, he says confidently, not really having his screen up, if you have any questions for us, please feel free to leave that in the comment section, and at the end we'll try to answer. So especially for Christian, you can email me at any time, but this is the one time you'll have him here, right here. Yeah, live. So a lot of our listeners probably know about you, especially because we have a large amount of listeners in Ontario. But for those of you that don't, would you mind telling a little bit about yourself, Christian?
Sure. Me, Christian Overton, born at a young age. No, I'm just kidding. No, I was originally born in North Bay, Ontario, but I grew up in Sudbury. Went to some great public music programs, Robert Jack Elementary School, which is not around anymore, and LaSalle Secondary School, really strong public school music programs at the time, which was really great. I mean, there was grade 13 at the time, so there was even an extra year of seniors for everyone to be, extra experienced and awesome. And the Northern Ontario Band Festival was a big part of my growing up, my musical experiences growing up, of course. And they used to have trophies for winners and stuff like that. And a lot of the great Canadian musicians, especially from Toronto, would come up and adjudicate. So I got to meet some of my Canadian heroes and stuff, even at a young age. But Sudbury had and still does have like a really good small music community that's really nurturing to a lot of young students there. So I'm very thankful to have met a lot of the great teachers and local musicians in Sudbury that helped me get going. Moved to Toronto in 2001, went to Humber College to study trombone with the great Alistair Kay.
Yeah.
And I studied with him for all 4 years. Also did a bunch of arranging and composition study as well. Learned how to be a studio trombonist. And then I started the workforce as a freelance trombone player / forklift driver.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
I was a forklift driver for 3 years by day, trombonist by night.
Oh.
And, so I have extra skills. I
don't know. It's not terribly sexy. I don't know if it'll sell, but
you're sitting up, all day, thinking about what other things you want to do. But the good thing about it was, I had enough energy to come home and practice,
right,
and keep my music thing going. Then 3 or 4 years after that, I did my master's at U of T under Terry Main, and I studied with Kelsley Grant on trombone, but I also did a lot of composition stuff with Michael Acapinti and with Andrew Downing, and with Gary Kulesha as well. So that was a big part of my sort of compositional coming to maturity.
Right.
And then after that, I went back into the world minus the forklifting.
Yeah.
And continued the great fight, so to speak.
Right.
Freelance trombonist, composer, arranger guy.
Wonderful. And and the main reason I wanted to ask this is because I currently live in Sudbury, and I'm actually in my office at the school I teach at, Cambridge College, right now. I don't know if I'm supposed to be, but who knows? Security might knock on the door and tow
Sound
me
like
out of here.
Facebook
It's
or
not like it's
anything.
being recorded and live streamed. But yeah, I remember it's like as soon as I got here and started meeting the music community, it didn't take very long for me to hear about Christian Overton, and you are very famous up here and loved, and it's
Hometown.
really great. Yeah, hometown boy. So yeah, so it's been basically any gig I go to, I at some point you will hear about you. Maybe it's from Charlotte Leonard, maybe it's from Jack Brompton, maybe it's from someone like that. But yeah,
Don't believe all the things you hear. Okay? They're not all those stories are true, I swear.
yeah, and you were talking about being a freelancer, which we'll talk about, but I guess a big part of your career, especially now with being in this new COVID world, is composition. So I was wondering if you could just tell us a little bit about when composition took such a big role in your life, and maybe its role now.
Sure.
And when did you start too?
I started when I was at Humber College. I mean, when I was in high school, I had a jazz combo that I thought we could try out new things on, and I would try writing some tunes for that. They weren't great, okay? They weren't. But then when I got to Humber College, started studying a lot. I took arranging classes with Dave Stillwell and with John MacLeod, and it really kind of got sparked. I found that I could do them quickly, and people like to play my arrangements and composition. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I should keep doing it. And it's kind of a microcosm of Humber was kind of a microcosm of the real freelance scene, in that everybody had to do solo performance classes and that kind of thing. And we all needed to, have charts and arrangements for those things. So I would, volunteer to do them. I also was in a bunch of ensembles. Being a trombone player, unlike the real world, you're in serious demand in school. We need to fill up all these ensembles with trombones. So I decided I would write something for every ensemble that I was in. So every year I would just write one chart, either original composition or arrangement. And then I was studying with John MacLeod in my last year, and I was kind of like, well, I have all these, big band writing chops. What am I supposed to do now? Mm. And he's like, well, why don't you start your own band? I thought that was the worst idea ever. 17 people all the time writing for these people. How am I supposed to get like a gig's worth of charts? This is a stupid idea. Anyways, I did it. I decided maybe, I'm going to use these skills. So I decided to start a weekly rehearsal band called the Composers Collective Big Band. And I would play all my stuff that I brought in, but also a bunch of other local writers that were my friends. And it was a writer's workshop. So we brought in stuff, and I could hear, I guess you shouldn't write that for clarinet. I get the feedback instantly by my own ears or by the frowns of the people in front of me. So I was doing that for a bunch of years, and it really got my name around as, first of all, as a composer and arranger, because I had to know every horn player in town that was my age, because I needed subs for rehearsal every week. Trying to fill 17 spots every single week was a feat in itself. So I would call up, tons of people to try to get sit in the band, and then they would sit in the band and hear my stuff and other people's stuff. And then it kind of became more of a career in that I ended up writing a lot of charts for bands I was in, wedding bands and etc. So we could play anything off the radio. I would lift it and have it go towards the band. Which brings me to, of course, the publishing thing, which is probably what most of your fans would know me as, which is Clovertail Music Publishing. So I decided if I was going to write all these big band charts, why not have them up on the internet for sale? And I was also thinking, okay, who's going to be buying these charts, professional levels, but also a lot of schools as well. And I remember being in high school thinking, how much Canadian music did we play in school? I mean, we had a Dave McMurdo arrangement that we played that was really great. And, we knew of the Boss Brass and that kind of thing, I knew of some Canadian musicians, but the idea of, having Canadian content in the classroom for students to play, and, they could go online and find these people. These people have careers. They're out there. They're doing stuff. Yeah. And, just seeing if I was in a high school band and I saw that, hey, this guy is actually writing music that's from my level, I can maybe do this as a career. So that's kind of where the whole Clovertail music thing started as well. And then it expanded to a bunch of publishing other people's stuff, not just mine.
Yeah, which is great. A little collective there.
Yeah.
And one thing I really, really want to draw just attention to, especially now, the kind of the case that some of us find ourselves in, teaching jazz band, is just the sheer, maybe you have a very strange instrumentation. I know like a lot of our listeners in the States, they can actually kind of do band in small numbers, and even across Canada, we can also do that. So and with Clovertone music, there's actually, say if you have an oboe that you have in your big band, you can write to Christian, and he can he can write you a flexible chart for that and help out, which is a super handy thing, especially right now.
Yeah, thanks. So the idea is, rather than having the Hal Leonard, flex chart that they've been trying to do, which is, just tons of doubling and three voices or whatever it happens to be, I decided to try to, do it customized for your band. So you buy the chart, and then, with an extra small fee, I fix it for you. Mm-hmm. And it's something that the big publishers are just not able to do logistically. And it's something that, after adjudicating festivals and, knowing many music teachers along my path, especially in Ontario, there's just not a ton of full big band programs, right? Yeah. But they can still play great music. And if they want to play great Canadian music, we can adjust it for them. And that way you get all your kids that want to play oboe, or your tuba kids, or your French horn kids, they can be playing jazz band stuff. I've had people actually want to do their jazz band material, but with a full concert band, just with rhythm section as well, kind of thing. So, the idea is, especially if you have a concert band, but you don't have a jazz band, but you want to teach them some jazz, that kind of thing. Yeah. So it's been, I've had a lot of great feedback from teachers as far as being able to make successful programs out of these, customized charts that can help them.
That's great. And like, I've seen video of horn players at the Rex. It's a real thing.
It happens.
It happens. So, it's really great. Yeah. And and then separate from the composition part, which is a huge part of your freelance career, you are very busy as a freelancer. And not this time last year, but around this time last year, we were together at a band retreat. You were doing jazz band, I was doing the concert band, and all of that work is now gone. So so I was wondering how, as a free, I know it's like rip it out. As a freelancer, what have you been doing to keep yourself busy and maybe like pivot a lot?
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, for those of us who are primarily performers, it's really, I really haven't done a regular gig since, the beginning of March. Mm-hmm. But I'm not the kind of person to just, sit around and try to, wait it out. So I decided to try to use some of my other compositional skills to try to write some music. I was, applying for lots of things, composer, competition type stuff, using my time to practice, but also like many others that you see all around us on Facebook.
Yeah.
I did a bunch of multi-track videos and that kind of thing as well. And you got, I had some mixing skills beforehand, because for all the Clovertone music stuff we recorded and then I mixed them, for example, recording. So I had a little bit of skills involved in that. But then I had some other friends who were trying to get some recording projects happening because they were more free, and the musicians they wanted were more free. So I ended up really honing a lot of my production skills as well. So people would, I would take individual recordings from a bunch of people, and then I would mix them in Pro Tools. And then for my own stuff, I was doing my own original compositions. I don't have as much time to be composing for my own stuff as I would like to in the normal world. So I was kind of taking advantage of that. I wrote a suite of music based on, my pandemic struggles and also, the funny things that I've noticed during the pandemic. And I decided to multi-track it all as well. So learning the skills of being able to mix audio and then be able to do the video as well was another skill I just didn't have before this, and now I do have, because I've had a chance to do it and sort of pivot into this kind of thing. And they've been well received, which is great. Learning new skills, honing my other skills as well. And now that the school year started, I'm kind of doing some teaching and stuff is happening again. But I've really tried to take advantage of the time away from the live gig.
Right. Self-improvement. This is good.
Right. Yeah, especially for me.
Yeah. Especially for me. Great. And I mean, and one of the things that has brought me an immense amount of joy is when I go on Facebook and see one of your new multi-track videos. It's just so good. And, yeah, it's really great. So if you haven't checked those out, please check them out. And on Facebook. And I'll post all the links for everything that we're talking about on the podcast website, because we'll make a little page for this once it's all cleaned up and all that stuff. But that kind of ties into the main reason I wanted you to be here, and you wanted to be here, is to talk about this super cool new initiative. I know, even personally speaking, a lot of those skills that you talked about are something that I don't have, and I don't necessarily have the time to have. And I know there's a lot of other music teachers out there who are in a similar situation. We've been thrust into this new world of technology, and it's just like you're swimming in a pool and someone throws you the computer and then you just sink. So, yes. So you've come up with a way to help us all. So would you mind talking about this super cool Musicians Helping Music Teachers initiative?
Yeah. So I decided, after talking to enough of my music teacher friends, that of course it's no news to them that this is one of the most challenging years, different years, certainly the most different year they've ever had, and challenging in terms of really trying to learn on the fly. I mean, in the springtime, I had a bit of a taste of it, trying to figure out how they were going to do these things. And now, it's starting in September. I'm sure many of them, their heads are spinning already, and we're into the second week of school.
Yeah.
And it's just of course, it's not news to them that there's just such a demand on them, and they need to figure these things out. So I decided to come up with a bunch of services to try to help out my music teacher friends, while at the same time, us performing musicians, we have the skills that we can help, and not a lot of work and a lot of time, more time than we've ever had. So I thought maybe this is a way we could have a win-win situation. So I came up with a bunch of services to try to help music teachers out. One of them being like creating backing tracks. So if you want to play your concert band material, or whatever the material happens to be, or if they're deciding to have your groups in trios, they can't play together, right? But they can play to a backing track instead. So the idea is putting in some of your, send me a score of whatever arrangement you want to do, and I create a backing track. The kids can practice along to that. Some of the teachers that I've been talking to have actually done videos of themselves conducting to a backing track, and then have full band rehearsals. The kids can't play together, obviously. So everyone's muted and sounding amazing because it's all perfectly in tune. But the idea is that the kids can actually be part of a live rehearsal with these kind of backing tracks. Also, talking about replacing some live shows that can't happen. You want to do a Christmas concert, spring concert, festival kind of season. That's really not in the cards this year. So I decided to offer some of my colleagues mixing and video creation skills. So rather than having your Christmas concert at the end of the year, we can put together one of these multi-track videos, so you can show, of course, the resiliency of your music program to not only to your own bosses who are wondering what the heck you're doing there, and to, the teachers' parents as well, to let them know that your program is still thriving and that things are still happening. Mm-hmm. Because I have the access to all the Overton music stuff, I decided to make some of it available to help kids learn some of the technology as well. So some teachers that I've been talking to have like a 2.5 hour block in the morning, and they have to, without instruments, somehow come up with stuff. And a lot of them are turning to technology. I know a lot of the private schools and that kind of thing have every kid has access to devices with technology on it.
Right.
And some other kids are just wanting to learn about it, even if they can't necessarily do it live with the teacher, but they can still learn about the whole mixing process. Because as much as we're really focused in the band program about playing really well, performing really well, and reading music really well, the next stage of actually recording, what happens after it goes into a microphone? How does it come out as a CD, right? Most kids have no idea. So you can use that to look at music in a different way. So I have I have 3 different charts available. And what teachers can do is they can download the Overton music chart, as well as all the stems. So the recording stems, for those of you who don't know, it's like the trumpet 1 microphone for the entire length of the piece, the trumpet 2 microphone. So you get all 25 stems, all the 25 different microphones. And then what the students can do, or the teacher can present, is how to start with that and mix. In the lessons, like, okay, who has the melody here? Let's look at bar 8. Who has the melody? Oh, the trumpets have the melody. So we're going to want them in front volume-wise. You can push them in front. And then things like panning, of course, if you're in front of the class, where our ears are listening in stereo. So which way, where are we going to hear the trombones? Where are we going to hear the other instruments? So that comes out of, music production as panning. Also things like reverb and all that stuff. So what the kids can learn is how to mix and how to think about music in a different way while they're still looking at the sheet music. If they want to replace that trumpet part, they can mute that trumpet 1 part and then play it themselves with the professional recordings. They want to do their own solos, they can do that as well. So the idea is being able to learn how to mix, but also be able to bring together that sight reading, that performance skills that we talked about, and the technology skills, kind of put them together. Another thing I was talking about is, of course, just trying to get some of these clinics and master classes and lessons and all the stuff that we love to do as professional musicians, going into schools, working with bands, working with beginners, getting them a good sound, doing lessons with kids that are interested or whose parents force them to do lessons. And it's really about trying to get some of these things in there. And now we can do a lot of those things over Zoom.
Yep.
And because I've teamed up with a group called the Band-Aids, which is led by Klaus Anselm and Mike Work. And they've been, for those teachers who are in the GTA, they probably have heard of them. They've been doing clinics and organizing a lot of private lesson programs in Toronto for many years. So I've teamed up with them to try to get the same kind of thing happening over Zoom. So I know a lot of teachers trying to get, let's put the clarinet together, over Zoom. And they're just like, oh, especially if they're not a clarinet player, how do you get all these kids started? An entire band of beginners. So, the idea of having pros come in and do master classes on how do we put it together, how do we make a sound, that kind of thing, is all available now. We're musicians that, we have the time to do it and we have the skills. Luckily, I have access to a lot of fellow musicians who are able to still share their skills as well.
Right.
And the last service that I was talking about is trying to get a virtual music festival going. And I know some of the other local festivals and that are leaning towards this in the springtime. But the idea of not necessarily doing a live performance, because the idea of that may not be possible in the springtime, but the idea of being able to send in a band recording and still have an adjudicator either do a Zoom thing with your band, adjudicating the recording, or have written adjudication, just like they would at a regular music festival. Right. And not just limiting this, because we've had so many. The idea of just doing a full concert band is just not going to be possible for a lot of programs. But if your kids are doing trios, or even if they've got some crazy thing that they've done on GarageBand, we can get adjudicated by professional musicians and people from the audio industry, audio engineers. So it's kind of something that we're thinking about for the springtime. So stay tuned, everyone.
Stay tuned. Awesome.
How was that first spiel? It was a
long. Sell. No, it was perfect. But it is really a great thing to see. You're helping musicians, of course, as you say, your title, also music teachers, but just the things that you're mentioning that students are going to be able to learn from working with you and your colleagues and friends is great. A lot of these, like you're saying, a lot of these technology skills aren't necessarily, maybe we don't have time to teach them, and we learn them on our own after we leave school, or those things.
Right,
And I think out of any year that we now appreciate those skills, it's this year. I know I have for sure. And I just want to, here we go, Grandpa Maddox for the win. Will it work? I'm going to share my screen on Facebook
All right.
Live. So I think this should be showing, but this is Christian's website, and I'm just going to go to the Musicians Helping Music Teachers section just so you can see all of it.
Yeah.
There's just so much stuff here that can be a help to your program.
And a lot of learn more buttons, because I didn't want the main page to be so cluttered. But and of course, there's lots of contact buttons as well. Talk to me.
Don't be afraid.
I'm a nice guy, right?
You've seen him here. Look at that smile. My goodness. But I mean, I just showed the website. But if people want to get in touch with you, where can they do that?
So from the website, there's a contact page, and you can fill out your information and then send it, which sends an email directly to me. Doesn't go to any corporate overlords or anything like that. It'll go right to me, and I'll get back to you as instantaneously as possible. And if you'd rather set up a phone call or anything like that, we can certainly do that. Don't want to say my phone number over the internet, but you can send me an email. We'll recognize it.
Awesome. Well, I forgot to. Does anyone have any questions? I feel like I'm teaching, which I've been doing all day, but I don't see any questions. So I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being the first BRP Live guest and telling us about you and all the wonderful things you're doing. So thanks so much.
Dylan, you're doing a great thing here with the podcast.
Well, thank
Bringing
you.
together music teachers and resources that they probably need now more than ever, from me, but also from other people. So you got a great thing going on. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.